I'm a native of Chongqing, born and raised here, but even I'm finding it hard to make a living in the city now. Many locals on Douyin are saying that if their homes get demolished and they receive compensation, they'll immediately move to Chengdu. What's happening to Chongqing? Wages aren't increasing, housing prices are plummeting, and living costs keep rising with no end in sight. Even parking by the roadside costs hundreds of yuan. Let me talk about the job market here. A friend of mine was trying to find a writing job. She went around Shapingba district but didn't find anything. Just think about how bad things have gotten. Remember how glorious the Three Gorges Square used to be? Now it's mostly just a place for seniors to gather and dance. This young woman said that life in Chongqing, Sichuan province, feels disheartening. There are few job opportunities and the wages are low. Most people working here make only 4,000 to 5,000 yuan a month, which feels like begging. In terms of expenses, it's a first-tier city, but in terms of salaries, it's a third-tier city. You can survive, but it's hard to live well. She questioned, when a city is no longer livable for ordinary people, how can you sustain its development? Chongqing is one of China's 4 directly governed municipalities, a major economic hub in the western region. But now business is in decline, and life for residents is tough. At the end of the year, many videos of shops closing down in Chongqing started circulating on social media.
A once busy area around the subway has fallen apart. It used to be packed with people. Shenhui Plaza is almost in the same condition. Its big screens have gone dark. Even Starbucks is shut down, and Pacific Department Store has closed. The prime areas in Na'an District have been abandoned for years, with no one willing to take over. These used to be bustling spots. Bailian Shanghai City stopped operating on December 31st last year and is now being transferred to new owners. Edward Hospital in Shapingba is gone too, as are major malls like Yubei Shenming International Trade City and Huashan Outlets in Banan District. Even Hengda Zhongyu Plaza is barely holding on. Places like Yanja Ping Zhongdi Plaza, once symbols of prosperity, are now empty and rusting. Can physical retail still survive? Even Chongqing Zaomei Li Hotpot has closed down, with its doors shut and locked. This chain had over 200 branches nationwide, but has now ended in failure. Once you had to line up to eat there, but now it's all over. For anyone planning to open a store in 2025, be cautious. Most restaurants are losing money, especially franchises that require heavy investments but ultimately amount to nothing. The catering industry will only get harder.
A Chongqing-based blogger described the dire situation of local industries. Do you know how many people have lost their jobs in Chongqing this year? Or how many can't find work? Walk around and you'll see countless for rent and for transfer signs everywhere, even in once popular areas like Guanyinqiao and Longhu 9th Street. It's heartbreaking to see so many shops closing down all at once. Big companies are laying off staff, and small businesses are shutting down one after another. Many unemployed people have turned to delivery work, driving taxis, or online ride-hailing. But competition is fierce. Chongqing has become a high-cost, low-income city, and it's hard for regular wage earners to support their families. At work, one person often has to do the job of 2 or 3 people, with overwhelming pressure. Quitting isn't an option because of the fear of unemployment. After work, no one dares to shop or socialize. Groceries cost 200 or 300 yuan, and you barely get anything. Vegetables are even more expensive than meat. Families face endless expenses like mortgages, car loans, and school fees, not to mention clothing and other essentials. If you have a steady job with Social Security and regular pay, don't give it up. It's already an enviable situation. Even business owners are struggling. They face huge monthly expenses like employee wages and rent, with falling revenue and mounting losses. Many are holding on just to avoid shutting down completely. In this tough economic environment, it feels like no amount of effort can make a difference. According to statistics from the Chinese Communist Party, Chongqing's fiscal revenue grew by 4.9% from January to November 2024, with non-tax revenue up 11.8%. However, corporate income tax dropped by 0.2%, and personal income tax fell by 4.1%, reflecting the economic downturn. Critics often claim official data is beautified, but even this shows economic distress, aligning with broader stagnation across China. In response, a district-level official in Chongqing made an unusual appeal, urging public servants to lead by example and boost consumption.
We should lead, drive, and encourage consumption. I hope everyone here will buy a new outfit for themselves and their families before the Lunar New Year. Take your family out for a meal every weekend. If everyone in Chongqing spends 60 to 100 yuan per person, we could generate 1 million yuan in consumption.
Opinions online were mixed. Some thought it was a good idea, while others dismissed it as mere posturing. Financial bloggers suggested that instead of such measures, direct cash payments to citizens would be more effective.
企业涨工资，但是这种办法无济于事。
The suggestion of encouraging officials to spend more is futile. If you want to raise salaries across various sectors, where will the money come from? In the short term, the only way to address the consumption issue is for the government to implement a comprehensive plan and mobilize significant fiscal resources to directly stimulate consumption. Ideally, this should be led by the central government. Relying on small subsidies for trade-in programs won't make much of a difference because most people don't lack the 15% subsidy. They lack the 85% of the funds needed to make purchases. That's why I've always advocated for the government to issue 7 to 8 trillion yuan in 30-year special treasury bonds annually. These funds should be distributed as living subsidies to every citizen. Additionally, another 2 to 3 trillion yuan in special bonds could be issued to bolster healthcare and pension systems. This would allow companies to reduce their social insurance contributions. Altogether, this 10 trillion yuan annually could directly benefit the people.
A blogger criticized Chongqing's officials for their approach to stimulating consumption, saying,
有人又说了，说这重庆
Instead of figuring out how to raise ordinary people's incomes, this leader is encouraging officials to dine and drink lavishly to boost spending. Of course, the public will criticize him for this. Moreover, even government-funded units are struggling to pay salaries in some cases. This speech offends both sides. If you genuinely want to revive consumption, you don't need to have officials lead the way. Here's a suggestion. Cancel those 3 to 5 yuan luxury buffets at government cafeterias. Make officials and public servants eat outside instead. That way, they'll spend their own money, and nearby small restaurants and vendors will earn more. It could also improve food safety standards in the surrounding area, a win-win-win situation.
The blogger also mentioned a previous proposal from an expert, lifting the alcohol ban for public servants to encourage them to drink more at banquets, which could supposedly attract investment and revive consumption. The blogger mocked this idea, asking, are officials supposed to buy alcohol themselves, or will public funds cover it, or should private business owners foot the bill? Economist Su Ling told Radio Free Asia that the Chongqing officials' remarks reflect a dire economic situation where consumption spending has reached a critical low. It indirectly acknowledges the government's inability to effectively stimulate consumption. Encouraging public servants to spend might help slightly, but it's like a drop in the bucket. U.S.-based scholar Hu Ping noted that this directive for officials to lead in spending likely ties to recent reports of public servant salary increases. The official might be signaling to lower-level public servants that since they've received raises, they should now contribute to boosting consumption. In recent years, China's economy has remained sluggish, with local governments facing fiscal difficulties. Reports of salary cuts and layoffs across various sectors, including public servants, have been frequent. Yet at the end of 2024, rumors surfaced about a nationwide pay raise for public servants. Bloomberg reported late last year that public servant salaries were increased retroactively to July 2024, with an average monthly raise of about 500 yuan. The back pay was distributed as a lump sum at the end of the year. Overseas media outlets have since confirmed this, with salary increases ranging from over 300 yuan for entry-level staff to around 1,000 yuan for deputy department heads. The last nationwide salary adjustment for public servants was in 2015, with minor changes in subsequent years. These adjustments stopped during the pandemic. The current raise marks the first adjustment since the pandemic, but has yet to be officially announced by CCP media or government documents. When this news emerged late last year, it sparked discussion on Chinese social media. One sarcastically remarked, while ordinary people were waiting for financial aid to survive the winter, public servants suddenly got substantial raises. Others questioned, aren't many local governments struggling to pay salaries? Where's the money for this raise coming from? These critical voices quickly disappeared under the CCP's strict internet controls. Former Inner Mongolia official Du Wen, now based in Europe, told Radio Free Asia that any adjustment to public servant salaries should follow strict legal procedures, requiring approval by the People's Congress before funds can be allocated. However, in reality, the government bypassed these legal processes. A public servant in Zhejiang, speaking to overseas media using an alias, said that in recent years, civil servants faced pay cuts under various pretexts, causing instability in the workforce. Now, the Communist Party has resorted to high-profile pay raises. However, the increases are minimal and funded by government-issued bonds. He said, they just want to create the illusion that the party still values public servants. Davy J. Huang, a U.S.-based economist, commented that the official justification for the pay raise, stimulating consumption, stabilizing social structures, and improving welfare, is secondary to the real goal, maintaining political stability. By offering slight pay increases, the authorities aim to quell dissatisfaction among civil servants and ensure their ability to carry out government tasks, even when those tasks may conflict with moral or social ethics. Huang further criticized this approach as inconsistent with universal values and international norms. In times of economic hardship and widespread public discontent, governments in other countries often lead by example by cutting civil servant salaries. Instead, Beijing has chosen to increase pay for those in administrative and enforcement roles that uphold its regime. China's economy has remained stagnant following 3 years of the pandemic. On January 9, 2025, the CCP reported that the Consumer Price Index rose just 0.1% year-over-year in December 2024, and 0.2% for the entire year. Meanwhile, the Producer Price Index fell by 2.3% in December and 2.2% for the year. The persistently weak CPI and PPI figures indicate looming deflation. The CCP has repeatedly emphasized the need to stimulate consumption and expand domestic demand. In 2024, the government issued an estimated 20 trillion yuan in new currency, primarily to support local governments and state-owned enterprises, with little impact on boosting consumer spending. In November 2024, the Ministry of Finance introduced a 10 trillion yuan debt restructuring plan to help local governments manage high-interest short-term debt and maintain basic administrative operations. However, these funds did not contribute to stimulating domestic demand or increasing consumer spending. According to Li Hengqing, an economist at the Information and Strategy Institute in the U.S., Western countries directly distribute money to their citizens to boost consumption and stimulate economic growth. In contrast, the CCP's policies prioritize bailing out local governments rather than putting money in the hands of ordinary people. To revitalize the economy, Beijing launched initiatives in March 2024, such as trade-in programs for consumer goods and equipment upgrades. While heavily promoted, these measures had limited impact. In August 2024, the Ministry of Finance allocated 150 billion yuan from special treasury bonds for trade-ins on household appliances, cars, electric bicycles, and other goods.
家里有旧车的老板，看过来，国股又延续了。
Attention, car owners with old vehicles. The government subsidy program has been extended. If you trade in your old car now, not only can you enjoy government subsidies, but you can also get additional manufacturer trade-in bonuses of up to 40,000 yuan. What are you waiting for? Click my profile and send me a private message. However, many consumers took to social media to expose issues with the 2024 Tradein Subsidy. They reported that prices on e-commerce platforms and in physical stores suddenly increased after the policy was introduced. As a result, the prices after subsidies were similar to or even higher than the original prices. Friends, if you have any old, broken, or unused items at home, you can bring them to us and exchange them for a brand new Oppo phone. This model is available for just 899 yuan after the trade-in. I'm telling the truth, no tricks here. If you've got anything old lying around, bring it to us for a trade-in. On January 8, 2025, the government expanded its trade-in policy, increasing the range of eligible household appliances from 8 to 12 categories, adding items like microwaves, water purifiers, dishwashers, and rice cookers. Consumers could also receive subsidies of 20,000 yuan for purchasing new energy vehicles and 15,000 yuan for gasoline cars with engine sizes of 2 liters or smaller. Electronics like smartphones and tablets priced under 6,000 yuan became eligible for a 15% subsidy. Despite these measures, Hong Kong and mainland Chinese stock markets fell following the announcement, signaling limited investor confidence in the policy's effectiveness. When Sanlian Life Weekly asked readers if they would take the chance to upgrade their phones, most netizens responded with no. Some jokingly remarked, "Am I short of a few hundred yuan? No, I'm short of a few thousand." In his 2025 New Year's address, CCP leader Xi Jinping claimed the economy was recovering and improving. However, China's markets have responded with deep declines. Since trading resumed on January 2nd, Chinese stock, bond, and currency markets have all seen significant drops. On January 10th, all three major stock indices fell by more than 1%, with the Shanghai Composite Index closing below the 3,200-point mark. The January 2025 issue of the CCP's Qiushi magazine featured Xi Jinping's remarks, where he claimed that Western countries are increasingly in turmoil, reiterating his narrative of the East is rising and the West is declining, and that China governs, the West is in disorder. Associate Professor of Political Science Chen Shiming at National Taiwan University stated that following the end of pandemic lockdowns, it's clear that China's economy is in decline, accompanied by various social issues. He suggested that even more severe problems may not have been reported yet. Xi's remarks, Chen argued, appeared to be a desperate political maneuver in the face of internal struggles. Most Chinese citizens, he noted, do not see Xi as having legitimate authority. As a result, CCP media resorts to propaganda and false narratives to maintain control.